Hello, 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 everybody. Good evening and welcome to Black Opera Live, November the 2nd, 2020, in the year of our Lord, the evening before the last day to do what? Vote. And as you know, I am voting for, get it right, make no mistake. This is how I'm walking around in the streets in New Jersey and in New York. It's how I'll be going to the polls tomorrow to work the polls. And it's how I'll be going to the airport after I'm done. So now I want to tell y'all about my panel tonight. Baby, we're going in tonight about the politics and about the arts and about how each one affects the other and about how it affects African Americans across the country and across the world. But first, I want to introduce you to my panelists and tell you a little bit about them before we get started. The first is Nicole Heaston Lane. Praised, baby, praised by the Houston Chronicle for her warm, supple soprano, and by the New York Times for her radiant and handsomely resonant voice. Soprano Nicole Heaston has appeared with opera companies throughout the world, including, but not limited to, the Metropolitan Opera, Houston Grand Opera, San Francisco Opera, Dallas Opera, Washington National Opera, Los Angeles Opera, Symphony Oper Dresden, Deutsche Oper am Rhein in Dusseldorf, and the Glyndebourne Festival in England. In 2019-2020, Nicole sang Countess Almaviva in Le Notte di Figaro at San Francisco Opera and will make her debut in the title role of Thais with the Utah Opera and appear in Memphis Symphony's opening weekend gala. And if you have not seen it, you need to check out Beacon Sport that Houston Grand Opera produced a couple of weeks ago online. Hopefully the content is still available. We'll ask Nicole, but she is phenomenal in it. Welcome, Nicole. Welcome back, Nicole. Actually, Nicole was my very, 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 very first guest on Black Opera Live back when I was on Instagram. So I'm so happy to have her back. Rising dramatic tenor Limmie Pulliam has thrilled audiences the world over with his captivating stage presence and his stentorian yet beautiful sound. 2020 will include a return appearance with the Memphis Symphony Orchestra in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, his debut with the Newport Music Festival, the Springfield Symphony Orchestra in the Oratorio Civil War in Missouri, and the much anticipated recitals in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Oberlin Conservatory of Music, his alma mater. In 2019, it included appearances with the Springfield Regional Opera for their 40th anniversary gala, his debut with the Memphis Symphony Orchestra, and he also joined the roster of the Washington National Opera, covering the title role in David Alden's acclaimed production of Verdi's Otello. Welcome to The Voice, Limmie Pulliam. Welcome, sir. With a heroically shining tone of exceptional clarity and precision by Opera Magazine and gorgeously burnished power from the New York Times, American tenor Russell Thomas uses his signature elegance and intensity to create vivid character portrayals on the world's most important stages. The 2019-20 season features Mr. Thomas's much anticipated role debuts in a trio of important Verdi roles. He opens the season with his first Don Alvaro in a new Frank Kastorf production of La Forza del Destino at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, and subsequently makes his role and house debuts as Radames in Houston Grand Opera's new production, the Phil McDermott production of Aida, amid returns to Canadian Opera Company as Radames and Washington National Opera as the title character in Verdi's iconic Otello. He also joined Gianna Dorea Noceda in the Vienna Concert House for Beethoven's Symphony No. 9, and Mr. Thomas closes his season with a role debut as the title character in Ernani with San Francisco Opera, and I believe Rona interrupted that, but hopefully the world will get his Ernani like we deserve. Welcome, Mr. Russell Thomas. And last but certainly not least, baby, Afton Battle, or should I say, the newly appointed, recently crowned, most deservedly General Director of the Fort Worth Opera, is in the house Tonight, 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 tonight. Afton Battle comes to Fort Worth Opera following development and strategic consulting work with Red Clay Dance Company, the National Black Theater, the African American Policy Forum, and the Brooklyn Arts and Culture firm Red Olive Consulting. She was previously the Director of Development for the New York Theater Workshop, Director of the annual campaign for America's premier ballet company, the Joffrey Ballet, and the Corporate and Foundation Relations and Individual Giving Manager for the National Museum of Mexican Art in Chicago, Illinois. Prior to that, she served as the Program and Grants Manager for Bank Street College of Education in New York. A native of Amarillo, Miss Battle graduated from the University of Heaston with a degree in voice performance before attending the Westminster Choir College in Princeton, New Jersey, and receiving a Master of Music in Voice Performance and Pedagogy. She knows how to sing and do it. And do it. Catch it. As Miss Battle joins Fort Worth Opera this season, she gratefully acknowledges Angelique Clay, President of the Field Foundation, and Mila Gibson, voice teacher, music educator, and founder of Amarillo Opera for their mentorship, guidance, and career development advice that encourage her to pursue a path in opera and arts administration. Baby, this panel is fire. Fire. It's fire. So I'm going to bring them on in the room, and we're going to have a good time talking about the politics and the state of the world today. Welcome, my guests. How y'all doing?
Hey. Vote.
Hello, people. Hello, people.
Welcome. I'm so glad y'all are here. Child, the comment section is already blowing up a little bit. Hold on. Patrick McCoy is always so good to see you. Jim Lieberthal, my regulars. I love the support. Hey, Patrice Eaton, Karen Slack in the house. Hey. I love it. Jonathan J. Holly, Tim Renaissance, love it. Thank you for being here with the folks. And please feel free to join in the comment section, because tonight we going in. No holds barred. We going in. But first, I want to give my audience a little background as to who you are, that they may not know you. So if you wouldn't mind telling us how you got into music in general, particularly classical music, I think they would love to hear it. Let's start with you, Sir Pulliam.
Well, I got into music, obviously growing up in the church. I'm a PK, a preacher's kid. So I grew up in the church. So we had to do everything, sing in the choir, Sunshine Band. So I've been doing it since I was...
Come on, Sunshine Band.
Since I was a kid. But it wasn't until middle school, 6th, 7th grade, when I got into the school choir. And I was what I called a lazy bass. Because I couldn't say, I wouldn't sing. Everything above a middle C was too high for me at the time. And, and it was one day in class, my teacher heard me doing an impersonation of Stevie Wonder and heard me singing well above a middle C. And that's when she figured out I was a tenor. So we switched over to tenor and went into choir in the high school. And then about my junior year, she pulled me aside and said, have you ever heard of opera? And I said, nope. So she handed me a cassette tape, I'm dating myself, and a piece of sheet music and said, listen to this and go learn it. And it happened to be the Una furtiva lagrima from the Elixir of Love. And I listened to it, fell in love with it. And one night I just let the tape play and started listening to everything else on the tape. And I was just enraptured by the sound that I was hearing. And I've been hooked ever since. So that's how I got into this thing.
I love it. Tell us about it, Nicole.
Much like Limmie, I'm sure as everybody on here, grew up singing in the church, singing in the choir. My mother was a concert pianist, so she played for the church choir. So I had to sing. But when I got to high school, I had, because I'd done the Chicago Children's Choir as a kid. My mother put me in that. But when I got to high school, Dr. Lena McLinn was my teacher. The
legend.
Composer, the Reverend Dr. Get it all in there. And she heard me sing, and I'd been singing alto my whole life. And I guess like Limmie, a lazy soprano. And she said, no, soprano and you're an opera singer. And I was like, opera singers don't, they aren't Black. And she said, yes, they are. And I noticed all the posters on the back of her wall of Leontine Price and William Warfield. And she said, you're going to be an opera singer. And she had me enter Vernon Jarrett's AXO competition that's sponsored by the United Negro, by the NAACP. And I won $1,000 at the national level my first year. I won first.
Come on now.
And my mama said, if you win again, you can buy a car. And so I said, okay. So I sat there and I got myself a recording of Beverly Sills singing Mein Herr Marquis and learned some really atrocious German. It was wrong, but I still sang it well and won first place. So I bought me a car the next year.
See?
So at that point, I realized, well, maybe if I can make money doing this, I might as well switch from wanting to be a lawyer and, follow my passion. I love to sing. And then when I got in college, I was sold. I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be. I get to dress up. I get to sing beautiful music and communicate with people. It was all from there. But Dr. Limmie McLean, she was the one that said, you are an operatic soprano and will be a star. And that was it.
Thank you, Dr. McLean. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Tell us about it, Afton. Huh?
Oh, well, much like Limmie, I am a PK through and through. My daddy is a preacher. My grandfather was a preacher. So I come by it honestly, all of it. But I started singing in church and then was singing in middle school, elementary school choir, things like that. And it wasn't until my Juneteenth pageant debut and singing was my talent. And Mila Gibson was a judge and she heard me sing and came backstage and said, I want to offer you voice lessons. And I was like, what are those? And she said, come to the studio. And I went to the studio. And also, much like Limmie, I was new to music and she gave me Vici d'arte and and a cassette tape of my accompanist at the time playing it. And I went to a practice room and was doing this, starting and stopping to learn that music because it was the only way I was going to learn it. And really, fell in love with just the piece, right? And then I saw Traviata live and in person, my first opera, and was like, that's it. Went to the registrar's office the next day, changed my major from business, international marketing, and advertising. I had real big dreams to vocal performance, and
wow.
Never looked back.
My goodness. Wow, that's amazing. I've always heard that preachers' kids they're the ones you need to watch out for. That's all. I'm gonna leave that there. Tell us about it, Russell.
Well, for me, it was by happenstance that I even learned what classical music or opera even was. I turned on the radio one day when I came home from school at 8 years old and was switching through the channels and heard people singing funny, and I stopped. and I didn't know what I was listening to, but it was something that drew me in. And every single day after school, I would come back and go to that radio station, turn the dial, because when you have no remote controls, turn the dial on the big silver box, turn the dial and find that radio station and listen to classical music. When I was in junior high school, I joined choir and band, and in high school I stayed in choir, and I was doing one of these solo and ensemble competitions, and my choir teacher invited an opera theater director from a local conservatory in Miami to help us out with our stuff. And I didn't know she was like some big famous opera diva, and she came and helped us out with our solos. And then after, I was singing for 5 minutes, she said, you need to take voice lessons. And I thought that meant something was wrong on my throat. I thought something was wrong. Everybody always thought I was a good singer, but this lady all of a sudden said, you need to take voice lessons. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? And she said, nothing's wrong. Everything's right. And if you take voice lessons, it will get even better. And I guarantee you that you should, if you go and audition for any schools, if you learn a few songs, audition for schools, you get a full ride, go to college for free, blah, blah, blah. And it happened. And I was just sold. I was absolutely sold.
Amazing. I love how there's a thread of similarity, but all the stories are vastly different in a lot of ways. It's so interesting. Nicole, we're asking if we can see your shirt.
Oh yes, oh yes. Now I am a member, if you know me, a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So I am wearing, yes, I'm wearing my vote shirt. It was between this or my my Biden Harris shirt. It's also a Delta red, and yeah, I was gonna wear that, but it was dirty, so I had options.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So listen, let's get into it. Let's get right into it. All of you are incredible artists in your own right, and I wanted to share some of that artistry with the folks before we dig into the politics, because I don't want to get it confused. We're here because of the excellence that exists in each of your throats and minds and bodies and hearts and spirits. And so, as you know, I like to carry receipts in my bag. I'm a self-proclaimed receipt-carrying savage. I back up what I say. And the folks that come on here, they can sing. They can sing. And I have evidence of that. And I just want you to hold on to your wig. If you got a wig on, a weave, whatever, hold on to it because it may come off. Just watch it. I think I'm gonna throw you off my show. You're no longer welcome here, sir. Singing like that. Are you
Just
Q is ready.
kick you in your whole throat. Just kick you in.
Listen, I can't stand you, sir. How you gonna be ever a lazy bass and then turn that aria like that? Huh? And for the folks out there, I don't. There's a lot of people who know opera, and then there's some people who like to listen to opera, and they're fascinated by the high notes. You know, we're fascinated by high notes. But for me, it was everything else in addition to the legato line, the passion, the whole thing through and through. So that the high note is just an exclamation point to what was already great.
Yeah.
Right. Just icing on the cake. Just icing on the cake. That,
Icing already on the cake, sir.
yeah.
You know, you always hear stories about how we're never 100% when we're on stage. We're hardly ever. This was one of those nights where everything was just kind of, all the cylinders were firing just right, and the voice responded. When I wanted to do something, the voice responded. And
Come on.
I'll be forever grateful for just for that one night to be able to do and accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And yeah, I mean, it was just one of those.
Can I say he's talking crazy town? I've been on stage with him, and he does that all the time. So it always sounds that good. So no, I've been there. It's always that good. So quit tripping.
Listen, and I want every general director, artistic director, and conductor out there to hire this man.
Yes.
Hire this man to sing the repertoire that is appropriate for his throat, and introduce your audiences to this voice, because it's 1 in a million voice right here. He needs to be singing Karloff and Otello and anything else that he wants to sing all over the world. Get yourselves together, folks. Get the contracts ready once COVID is over, and put his name on it.
Artist management.
Who's your artist manager? Say it again, please.
Alex Fletcher and Sarah at Fletcher Artist Management.
And his information is on the ticket tape. Please respond accordingly, folks. Please respond accordingly.
Come on down to Texas. We ready for you.
There you go.
I'm
There
ready.
you go.
I love
There
it.
you go.
I love it. And hopefully Joe Biden will sing that song tomorrow night, huh?
Vin
Shadow, huh? Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
So next, and sticking with this same opera, it's an opera that I love so much. When people ask me what's my favorite opera, it's usually the opera that I'm doing at the moment, but it's always usually Puccini regardless. But Turandot and Fanciulla are probably my favorites. And so when Nicole sent me this clip, I was just bathing in it, baby. Bathing in it. And this clip happened shortly after what you just heard in the opera. And so if your heart wasn't already pounding out of your chest, I just need you to get into this. And when I run my company, ladies, just understand, this is the aria, if you're auditioning for this role, that I want to hear. I don't want to hear the other ones, because everybody can do the other ones. But when you sing this one right, like she do on tonight, then we can talk. Hold on to your wig. Now, ma'am, you have to leave the show too. You have to get out as well. Because listen, madam, listen. What is that? What is that? Like how when you're on stage in that moment in live performance, and do you tell your voice, this is what we about to do? And she does it? Or what does something come over? Like explain to me what that moment feels like to you.
I'm going to honestly say that moment felt great. I mean, that was my first time doing Liu in Turandot. And I fell so in love with the entire opera. I fell in love with Turandot. I fell in love with Kalaf. I fell in love with Ping Pong, Liu. But that moment, you're absolutely right. Signora Ascolta is beautiful. Gel is beautiful. But that one, like, I was sitting there because when I was coaching, I was like, I want to do all of that stuff in one breath at the end. And my coach was like, you don't have to. I was like, no, but I'm going to. And I said, I want to. And it felt so free to do it. And it was so much fun to do and just have it spin. And it's part of the music. I love it. I love it. Love it.
It's so gorgeous. So gorgeous.
Thank you.
It's
Font tones, just like butter.
Thank you.
Just butter.
Thank you.
Absolutely good. The folks in the chat are going nuts, absolutely nuts. It's such a moment, and I'm so glad that folks are finally starting to understand and realize how incredible and fantastic you are, my dear. You are. My goodness. Now, Russell, listen, you know I'm a big fan, and I'm a big fan because you are such a complete artist. You are a singer's singer. There's nobody that can turn a phrase like you. In the most demanding of repertoire, you make it look and sound easy. And I need to figure out how you do that. I need to know how you do that. But in case y'all don't know what I'm talking about, he has a receipt.
A CVS size receipt.
Listen, the CVS is still coming out the register
with the coupons on the end of it.
Scan here.
I almost don't want them to scan my little savings card because that makes it longer. That makes the receipt longer. But this is the kind of receipt you want. Hold on to that wig.
Fare ad amare a Santa
patria santa. Un bacio. Mamma, a te.
I mean, you have to go. You have to go. You have to go. Leave, sir. Leave,
He
sir.
is the Teddy Pendergrass of opera, baby. He is yelling at you to snatch them pennies up.
Thomas.
Yeah.
And if you knew all the drama that was around that recital, like there was so much drama around it, and that was in between performances of Cav. That was in between performances.
This is why
yeah.
Russell Thomas
Anyway.
will forever be my snack bae. So Nicole's like grabbing up them panties, Teddy Pendergrass, like forever the snack bae for that reason. I've already cleared it with my husband. So
Latoya said her 6-month-old son heard it and started walking. Well, Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I always said I made closer to God. I always said it. That's funny.
Listen, sir. I'm just such a huge fan. There was so much beauty and drama and attention to detail, and there was even drama in the silence.
Yes.
And that's how I judge really, really, really great singers. It's what are you doing in the silence? Am I still with you? Am I still interested and on the edge of my seat waiting for what's next? And you just do that so beautifully, so beautifully.
Thank you so much.
I have a Russell Thomas story. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't consider myself a good actor because I'm not a physical actor. So I do all the work with the music and the page and the dynamics and that kind of stuff to get my point across, because physically I don't think I'm good enough in that way. It's not a thing that I have. Some people, you look at them, you watch them, like watching Nicole in that thing. She was just, even on the floor, she was engaging on the floor. Me, I ain't got that. So I have to deal with this. I have to deal with this.
Well, you do it.
Okay, you do it. Now, what was your story, Afton, about him?
When I was in school in Kentucky, I went to the Met HD at, one of these movie theaters and watched Macbeth. And Russell was singing Macduff, I think it was.
Malcolm.
No, say who?
Malcolm.
And I remember sitting there just like, who is this Black person on stage singing like this? And at the edge of my seat, didn't know who he was, didn't know that he would be my forever snack bae. And here we are. It's like full circle for me, but I just remember that. I remember that instance so clearly in my mind, just so clear. It was like it was almost yesterday. It was so clear that. And that was one of the only things that I remember about that, one of the only ones I'll bring up that I remember about that performance. But I remember asking myself, like, who is this Black person up here singing like this?
See, and Christopher says, I thought his face was incredibly expressive in addition to the vocal beauty, and I disagree with his own assessment of his act. I see, Russell.
I do too. Look, I've had the privilege of covering Russell twice in Othello, and
which is crazy to me.
Both of those experiences have been just his performances were just emotionally moving. To see him on stage and to see what he was able to bring to that character. Don't let this man fool you and tell you he cannot act, because he can.
Listen, listen, with a throat like that, come on.
But listen, everything is relative. Everything is relative. For me, Dame Gwyneth Jones is like the epitome of what I think great acting is. You know what I mean? The epitome. And I watch what she does and what, be it expressiveness and how they throw themselves around the stage. I ain't throwing my big self down on nobody's face. That's not doing that. I'll come down slowly and get down there, but
see, that's me. That's me. I like to fall all over the stage and cry and Viola Davis snot and do all the things. That's what I like to do. Well, Miss Afton, listen, can we talk about where you are, what you're doing? How have you adjusted, and I'm sure you're still adjusting to this incredibly fantastic, new, exciting position. How are you doing?
I'm doing great because I have no other choice but to do great. But it is an adjustment. There is so much going on in the world, period. So much going on in this industry, period, that I feel like I have to maintain this level, realistic head about what we can do realistically as a company, and also what I want to do, and the moves that I want to make. But it's been it's been a journey. It's been 2 months. I had to look at the calendar. It's been 2 months, but it's been great. I have had some, challenges and some, little molehills to overcome, but every day I still feel incredibly honored to have this opportunity, and I still feel like I am doing the right thing, and that there's so much space for me to be able to make change and create change. And I still get excited by the work that I do, which is saying a lot for me.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, we are so insanely proud of you, and we will continue and plan to be the wind beneath your wings as you soar to great heights and do amazing things. So thank you for being here, and thank you for doing what you do and for your excellence, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get into the politics, baby. Let's talk about it. Tomorrow, I have started saying about a couple weeks ago, November 3rd is last call. November 3rd is not election day because, folks, 93 million people have already voted. So tomorrow is last call. Tell me in your own words, what makes this particular election so important and monumental for you and for the country as you see it through your eyes? You want to take it, Limmie?
Well, you hear so often during election cycles, people always say you got to get out and vote like your life depends on it.
Mm-hmm.
This election, your life literally could depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the direction that this administration has taken this country. Black men, black women, trans men are feeling as if we're being hunted, and permission has been given to hunt us on the streets. And so, you kind of used to laugh and say, "Oh, you got to get out and vote like your life depends on it." But right now, your life really does depend on it. I'm one of those people who, if you don't vote, we can't be friends. Right, blank, period. Because voting is something that, too many people have bled, died, and fought for this right, for people to sit at home, not get out and vote, and then have the nerve to want to complain about what's going on.
Yeah.
So if you don't vote, we're not friends, period. So I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear, nothing. Get your tails out and vote if you have not gone out and vote yet. So
I know that's right. Nicole, you want to add to that?
Personally, like Limmie said, there are always times when people say, "Oh, this is the election of the century. This is a really big one." This one is a big one for multiple reasons. The main one is I think that our country's soul is in peril. I keep seeing, just like the other day when people surrounded Biden's bus and were running people off the road and caused a car accident. People are acting in an insane manner over a certain candidate. And people are so angry and aggressive. And personally, and the thing is, what really kills me is that I just hear so many people saying, "I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm afraid for what's going to happen, whether Biden wins or Trump wins." I'm not. My dad told me, he said it, and it just made everything clear to me. America will get the president it deserves at this election. If we get Joe Biden, hopefully we will deserve him, and he will bring hopefully a bit of change and bring normalcy back to America, and hopefully, make our standing a little bit better. If we have Trump, we're going to continue on the road we're going on, and we're going to be more divisive. We're going to be more angry. COVID, and see, COVID is a whole nother can of worms.
Right.
Until somebody has the balls to get hold of that, because you know what, they got hold of it in New Zealand. They got hold of it in Australia, because those people are listening to their leaders because their leaders are talking sense. And right now we're in a situation where everybody is, it's all about me, 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 me. When we need to be thinking about we are the United States of America, and we need to start acting like it. And this election itself is such a huge referendum on that. And I want to take one from what Limmie says, like, if you don't vote, you ain't my friend. My whole thing is, my challenge is, if you ain't going to vote, then you need to be running next time. Because obviously you think you got some better stuff to do and stuff to say. If nobody can please you, do it yourself and be the change.
I know that's right. Afton, you want to add on to it?
Yeah, this election is bigger than all of us. It is our ancestors, it is our children who have yet either to be born or who are of an age to vote. It is well beyond us. And if we don't take this opportunity that we've been given to vote, to make our voices heard, then A, we cannot complain. We simply cannot. And B, we get what we deserve at that point. And, I am one I am hella anxious for many reasons about this election, as an individual, as a person running a performing arts organization, as, a daughter, as a person living in the state of Texas. Let me just keep it real. I am incredibly anxious about this, whichever way it swings. And to hear people, and most of the time it's our own people, it is Black folks, talk about Kamala Harris is not good enough for them and Joe Biden is not good enough for them. I get that, like, you can have your own opinion about that, but what we've been sitting in for 4 years has been 4 years of rotting sewage. And if you wish to continue to sit in rotting sewage for 4 years, then that is your own choice. You should move to the other side where the rest of the rotting sewage is sitting. But I want better for myself. I want better for this country. I want better for my friends. I want better for my family. I want better for our future. I want better for the fact that I'm upset that I can't, take out my passport and go and travel. And all of our friends and colleagues are, upset and hurt that they have lost income, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, because of this COVID situation that we wouldn't be in if we had a different realm of administration. So if you think you have COVID fatigue now, you're going to continue to have that fatigue if this administration doesn't turn over. And the last thing I will say, that I have been preaching for as long as this election cycle has been going, if the administration changes over to a Biden-Harris administration, we all ought to be prepared come January 20th for exactly what Nicole just mentioned, some iteration of getting this beast under control. Because right now we're playing fast and loose, like Russian roulette out here. And nobody has time for that. I've had multiple people in my family contract the COVID, and thank God they've all recovered from it. But there are 230,000 plus Americans who have not recovered and lost their life. I'm done counting deaths. Make a plan.
That's right. Yeah. What about you, Russ?
Well, I think everything has been said, but I'll add here. I'm one of those people that I'm afraid. American politics and this peaceful transfer of power thing is one of those things that scares me, because I see a play happening here that I hope I'm wrong about, but I see a play happening here, and I don't think that there will be a peaceful transfer of power. I think there is an attempt right now to thwart said peaceful transfer of power, because the way it looks, if I don't like polls. I've never liked polls. I hate hearing every night on the news 10 points, 11 points, 5 points. I hate hearing that, because that makes people stay home. That makes people. But I see that this man doesn't want to go anywhere. He said early on in his presidency, wouldn't it be great if I could be president for life? Wouldn't that be nice? You know, you just think about who he considers great friends, very nice to him. You know, these things actually scare me because America is a flawed country. It's a flawed country, but I love my country. I love being an American. You know, there's no, listen, for me, there's no better place. You know, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. You know, there are places that I love to visit and I love to go there and work and I love to be around those people and those cultures, but I'm an American and I take pride in that. And but what we've been seeing over the last 4 years, and to be honest, let's be really, really honest here. It started much more than 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It started about 22 years ago.
Newt Gingrich.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, Newt Gingrich going into Karl Rove. Let's talk about it. And that's for me as a person who sides economically with the right quite often. You know what I mean? Socially, not so much, but with economically, yes. Some people argue that you can't really separate those two things. However, this is a shit show. Excuse my language. I don't know if that's allowed on Black Opera Live, but
Yes.
this is a shit show, and it's been a shit show ever since Karl Rove and Bush invaded the White House. And Barack Obama did his damnedest to get it back on track. But now, and then think about how that's fallen off. That's in such a great way that I find this to be, it's scary. It is absolutely scary. And not just COVID, because that's going to do what it's going to do. And I think people should be prepared and our leaders should be making policies that protect people. But that ain't gonna happen anywhere before the 21st of January. So let's not even think about that. But there are things we can do, like actually get out and vote. And if you haven't voted already, there's a problem. You should have already voted. You should have already voted. You're waiting too long.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And as Black people, I think there have been so many. I've seen arguments and back and forth on social media when people say to not vote is an insult to our ancestry. It's an insult to every person that fought, bled, and died in the streets so that we had the right to vote. But my whole thing is that if you don't vote, you can't expect the system to work if you don't participate in it. You have to participate in it fully for it to work. And the one thing that I am encouraged about is that 93 million people have already voted. Take into account 66 million people voted for Hillary Clinton, and she won the popular vote by almost 3 million votes. And 93 million have already voted. I hope that that's a good sign for us. So I want to know from you all, of the things that are on the platform, like Roe v. Wade and health insurance, the Affordable Care Act, what is, if you have one burning issue that really resonates with you, that makes you want to vote what we have out and get something new in?
Climate
Nicole?
control.
Climate control.
I think that that's one that's really big for me, because I live here in Houston and we've had hurricanes for years. But when I sat through Hurricane Harvey, and that's in a place, my house has never come close to flooding, ever, ever, ever. And when you're sitting here and it won't stop raining for hour after hour after hour, and you get 52 inches of rain, it's a wake-up call to like, this isn't normal. And while this is happening here, people in California, their houses are burning down and the forest is burning down. And then there's tornadoes all over the Midwest. There is no place in the United States that is escaping the oddness of the climate that is happening. And people can sit there and dismiss it any type of way they want, but we need to get that under control. And that is something, because I'm like, I have children. I want my children to have a place where they can live sustainably when I'm gone, and for them to be able to have children and do the same. And right now we are taking advantage of this planet. We are raping this planet and abusing this planet only for financial gain. In financial gain going to the people who make the most money, who just hoard it. So That is a big thing for me. Climate change, I just see it. It is a global issue. It's a global issue.
Anyone else have the same or a different issue that's really resonates?
Well, I don't. For me, it's not one issue. I think it's everything. I mean, I think we need to flip a 180 on every single thing.
Mhm.
Think about
Yeah.
it, President. Listen again. I don't necessarily. Again, I'm like we were talking about with the whole idea of Kamala's not black enough, and I don't like Joe Biden, and I don't like Donald Trump, and blah. I don't like either one of them. I don't. Me and parties and no matter what I'm registered as, I don't like either one of them. But it's irresponsible of me not to vote. That is irresponsible. I would never vote for what we currently have because what is it doing for anybody? I'm not even talking about just black people. Let's not even be that specific. Like, it's not doing anything for anybody. And I don't understand how the people that side with this administration think that this is helping them in any measurable way. Yes, the stock market might be going up, but that has absolutely nothing to do with Trump. It's a continuation of Barack Obama's policies. Let's be honest. But how many of the average American citizen, the people who make $55,000 a year, have anything to do with what's going on in the Dow Jones? Anything?
Right.
Think about it. So for me, it's everything. Every single policy that's been turned over from Barack Obama. What he's done, he just went through and say, "Oh, Barack did this, let's do this. Barack did this, let's do this. Let's get rid of everything. Let's undo his legacy." He actually said that out loud, that he was systematically undoing the legacy of Barack Obama.
Yeah. I agree with everything that Russell and Nicole said, and we'll add to that foreign diplomacy and foreign policy, right? Like, this little thing that we all have called a passport used to mean something. It currently means nothing. And not that we should have leveraged that with some type of privilege, but we once, as the United States of America, were looked upon as the greatest country in the land. Like, we were looked upon as that. And now it has just sunk and sunk and sunk. And yes, you go back 22 years ago, sunk. Obama came around, was trying to lift us up, even maybe a little bit. Bill Clinton trying to lift us up, and we got up a little bit. We got pretty high with Obama, and it has like the La Brea tar pit just sinking upon itself. And without that type of domestic but foreign policy that has the global sense at hand, we will continue to fail on ourselves. Mm-hmm. We will continue to fail on ourselves, let alone continue to fail amongst our peers in the G6 and amongst Europe and everyone else in the country, in the world. But we will continue to fail upon ourselves, and we live here. We live in this country, and if we can't help our own selves, then what are we really doing? So it's like all of the policies. Yes, science matters, love matters, LGBTQIA rights matters. God knows Black Lives Matter. All of these things, climate control, yes, God, yes. How do we go from 27 degrees to 92 in a span of 2 or 3 days? All of these things matter, and none of them, for me, outweigh the other, because it's a system that really is leveled out, and each levy and each weight is perfectly engineered to balance out this whole thing. And right now it is completely unbalanced. Just the whole system topsy-turvy on its head, not even existent in some instances.
What about you, Lim?
Well, I agree with Afton. Our standing in the world has deteriorated to the point where I don't think we could even still call the president the leader of the free world.
Oh no!
At this point, and as she said, it's all the issues that are compounded together. For me, particularly right now, the issue that's important to me is actually a state issue. because we have a Republican legislature who is trying to overturn the will of the voters through a constitutional amendment. We voted in 2016 to take to kind of get gerrymandering under control, which is manipulating maps to the benefit of a political party, etc. We passed it overwhelmingly, and now the Republican legislature is trying to overturn that through another amendment, and using double talk and whatnot, and so it's just it's like a constant battle. And it angers me when I see people say, "Oh, well, Biden doesn't. I don't feel this way about Biden. He's not this. He's not that. Blah 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 blah." You're not voting for a best friend.
No.
You're not voting
Right.
You're not voting for the person you would like to hang out with the most. You're voting for a person who is competent enough to lead this country out of the mess we are in.
Absolutely. He's not inviting you to dinner.
No, he's not.
You don't have to.
The one thing that always bugs me, especially from Black people, is when I hear Black people say, well, that crime bill from like three decades ago,
Right. 30 years.
Trump said like 2 days ago.
Right.
Last night.
I'm like, exactly. So I'm like that whole dichotomy, because the thing is people who they are 30 years ago, and you got to think about where we were 30 years ago. I mean, 30 years ago, I was sitting there listening to Eddie Murphy tell, gay jokes and racist jokes and stuff, and all of that was cool and funny. Nobody would do that today.
Everybody a nigga.
Oh, bro, you know what I'm saying? There's times and places, and was it right? Was it wrong? That is history. But we're talking about current events. And when Black people use that as an excuse, I'm like, are you on crack? I'm like that there's no correlation. None.
Right.
But the same thing. They still though vote for their local. I mean, not local, but their legislative representative to Congress who also supported said crime bill. Nobody thinks about the fact that the Congressional Black Caucus overwhelmingly supported that. And they kept talking about, just in 2016, the same thing with Hillary, talking about the predators, the super predator. I'm like, really? You guys are talking about this stuff as if
it happened in a vacuum.
It didn't happen in a vacuum. Yeah. And in some instances, they were not wrong. They were talking about gang violence, and gang violence, as we all know, was terrible in that time. It was horrendous. Yeah. But listen, people like to live in the past so they can have an excuse for what they do. But for me, the most important thing, though, is local elections. I do care who my president is, but I vote every time not for that. I care who my city council person, my mayor, the state senator, those people matter to me because they make laws on a daily basis or things on a daily basis that affect my everyday life. Right. Something that Trump does, it makes us look bad. And when I show my passport, people might look at me funny. And they put America on a list of like terrorism or something like, something in Europe like that. Yes, those things bother me, but that's not affecting my everyday life. Let's be honest. But the things that do, you should go to vote because of who my district attorney is. I voted for my district attorney, for first Black woman to be elected as a district attorney in Fulton County. That was more important to me to vote for her, to vote for Kamala Harris, because essentially that's who I voted for, just to be honest. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I voted for Kamala Harris because I think she is going to be the future of this party if things go in the right direction. Those kind of things. I mean, listen, I wish everybody well, but these excuses that people come up with for why they won't do something, to me, is ludicrous.
Yeah. I want to just say one thing. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. We have a very unique aspect as an opera singer about how the world sees the United States. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, I live in a very predominantly white area, a very conservative area. I live in Texas, and a lot of them don't get out the way we get out. And so therefore they watch Fox News and they hear, that they're loved and that Trump is doing all these great things that everyone loves. But we are the people who go to Germany, go to France, go to England, go all around the world and have people tell us, we feel so sorry for you all. Yeah. How are you all doing this? Where they are mortified. And every time I tell people, they were like, oh, no, we're still, the most valued country in the world. And I'm like, no, they're laughing at you and they're pitying us. I was like, And I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a cab driver that says it to me or the general director of an opera house. Whenever I go anywhere and they find out I'm from here, they were like, ooh, Trump, right?
Yeah.
We have a unique perspective because we go a little bit of everywhere. Then, like, I work at BP and I only go to England for my job. We go everywhere.
Absolutely.
Everywhere. And they tell us.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things that I wanted to touch on is, as performers, I often see a lot of performers shy away from talking about politics for whatever the reason. But y'all four, plus me, I can't, I do it too. Y'all four are very outspoken about where you are and how you feel about politics. And I'm sure some artists feel that they don't want to do it because it could be career suicide and some sort of backlash. And, the board of directors might be one way, and they see an artist post or say something or take a stand, and it's like, well, we don't ever want that artist here again. Do you have those fears? And if you do, what makes you be so outspoken anyway?
I don't have those fears personally. I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it. I advocate for what I advocate for. Those who like it. Those who don't. I've always been a little too outspoken since I've been around this business.
You, not you.
A little too outspoken. But I think somebody has to be the one to do it, and if that makes me a sacrificial lamb, then put me on the slab. If I have to do that and anything good comes from it, I appreciate it. Anything good comes from it, let it come. But, I don't really think about any backlash. I don't think about that.
I in the position that I currently sit in, is one of a balancing act. However, I have always been authentically Afton. I will always be authentically Afton. And I speak for Afton. That is who I speak for. I do not speak for anyone else. I don't speak for my family, my friends, and I don't speak for anyone who I may or may not work with, or who's, who falls under the umbrella of fill in the blank. I speak for Afton. I voted for Afton. I advocate for Afton and Black folks, and for Afton. And so what I have to say and believe and feel are rooted in my own thoughts and feelings and hopes and fears and encouragement and beliefs. And I mean, hell, if we can't advocate for our own selves, there's no one else out there advocating for us. But if we can't speak for our own selves, then we might as well be mute. You might as well have cut our tongues out like Handmaid's Tale, and that's not the life I'm living. Not living it. So I feel like, it is uniquely, but also my responsibility to remain authentic to who I am and to share. I mean, it's my opinion. It's all of our opinions about how we feel about whatever, but to speak on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves, right? Because there will undoubtedly be some type of shared, ideals, but there are people who don't either have the platform or they don't want to, but you feel that encouragement and or maybe that rallying behind you. But 100 times out of 100, I am talking solely about me and my experience in this world, in this place and space, and how I feel about something and why it's important to me. It's my advocacy. And if you take that away from me, then to you, because I'm like, it is mine. It belongs to me.
Absolutely.
Lim.
Go ahead, Limmie.
Oh, well, I was looking at everyone here outside of you, Kenny. I think all of us live in red states.
Oh.
And growing up in a red state, I'm surrounded by Trump supporters every day. And I'm one of those people who believes you need more than just to have an opinion. You need to get involved. Mm-hmm. And you always have to put your money where your mouth is. I was one of those people for a while. I had these opinions, and people were like, no, it's fine to have an opinion, get involved. So I did. And I was, a few months ago, I was elected the chairperson of the Democratic Party for my county. So I speak out because I know the fear that most people in our community and the Black community have in speaking out and in speaking up, especially when it comes to issues of race. So if they won't do it, someone has to. And I happen to be in a position where I have a bit of notoriety in this area. People know me through my singing and whatnot, and I have the ability to say things that others don't, and I don't take that lightly. So tomorrow I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to take my parents to vote, my 85-year-old dad, my 80-year-old mom to vote, and most of my day is going to be spent driving around Trump territory, making sure that the shenanigans are kept under control.
Mm-hmm.
And I started back in 2007. I worked on President Obama's campaign as an organizer, and I had my office was vandalized in this area. I had my tires slashed. I had people try to run me off the road. It's real. The stuff you're seeing happening on TV right now with these caravans and the craziness, it is real. And like Afton said, you can't take away my accuracy. I'm making sure that I take away my accuracy because I'm not going to argue with you.
Right. I know that's right.
Come on, Clip.
Wherever I go.
There you go.
I used to say, wherever I go, take my 40.
I know that's right.
Follow me.
But I want to just add, what Limmie said, and that, the four of us, excluding you, Kenneth, live in red states. And it's nothing I ever felt like I needed to be mindful of. Went to school in New Jersey, lived in New York, lived in Chicago, lived in Washington State, until I got back here to Texas, that I never felt like I needed to be mindful of my surroundings in that way, right? I always felt like I could handle myself, that, I felt good about where I was. And coming back here, and especially to this particular part of Texas, this North Texas, very red, saturated red counties, plural. And I walk a little bit differently. I drive a little bit differently. I feel very mindful about just my interactions and where I go, for the only reason being that I don't know how everyone else is acting, and I'm quite sure I know where their loyalties, if you will, lie, and which direction of the spectrum they're skewed. But I've had to really catch myself in just being more alert than I would, and just being more intuitive and more in tune with anything that's going around, that's going on around me. And coming here, today, I was caught up in something that was not meant for me. I was caught up in something on the freeway that was not meant for me. And I tell you what, the force of nature, and I don't mean that in a positive way, the force of nature that was what I was caught up in today was enough to make me feel like I needed to cower inside of my home, because I don't want to go out in that. I don't want to be caught up in something and be outnumbered as a Black person in this particular area, and be outnumbered and not be able to defend myself, or, hell, like, I don't have a clip, right? I don't have that protection, and, they have
mine, better get yours.
Whatever someone else has. And so it's like, that within itself has even struck me differently, not in the past 4 years, but maybe in the past 4 months.
Yeah.
It's a heightened level of awareness in the past 4 months, doubly heightened in the past 4 weeks. And it's, it's something that I've not been used to, and I'm sure, many others haven't either. But it is why I speak out. It is why I say the things that I say. I don't care who you're voting for. Make a plan and go do it. Pick a side and get on it and be done. And, you know, I don't have big hopes and dreams for this peaceful transfer of power based on things that are happening. I believe there is coups in the wind. And so I will say this to everybody listening and watching, like, be mindful of where you are, of who you think has your back and who you might, you know, feel like is an ally in the alley, but
be vigilant.
yes.
Well, the reason why I don't have a problem saying whatever I have to say. I have to say, when I first started talking about stuff like on social media and stuff, the only thing I was concerned about was my husband, because my husband works in a very conservative field and I didn't want to reflect badly on him. But he was like, say what you want. And I was like, I will. And the reason I do is because it's about me voicing myself to make you uncomfortable, to make you understand a different point of view. Because when I moved here and I built this house, there was an old couple that lived across the street, and it was right around the time of that whole Bush-Gore fiasco. And I went to bed at 1:00 and Gore was president. When I woke up later, he was not. And so when I went outside, I saw my neighbor and he says, you know what? He was a white guy, a white Republican. And I didn't know that at the time. I knew he was white, but I knew he was Republican. But he says to me, he's like, man, last night was a crazy night, wasn't it? I say, yeah, it really was. He's like, well, at least it turned out good, you know, with Bush winning. And I said, oh, I didn't vote for Bush. And he just looked me straight up and said, so you didn't vote? And I said, no, I voted. He turned around without a word and walked back into his house. And I sat there. I'd only lived here. I built my house like in February. And I was like, where the hell have I moved? Because I'm in Chicago. And Chicago is blue city, Hyde Park, liberal, flower children. That's what I grew up with. So when I had that, I was like, oh, I'm here with crazy people. I was like, he couldn't even have a conversation with me because I didn't vote for Bush. And I was like, oh, no, sir. And I mean, and I have great friends here who are Republicans, and I would hear them talk about things and they would, you know, voice their opinions and stuff. And I would have no problem telling them that I disagree. And so I'm like, if you're going to because you're not going to make me uncomfortable in your surroundings without me letting you know how I'm going to make you uncomfortable too, because you're going to hear the facts that as I know them. And so when I put information out, that is just me venting my own personal being, because just because I'm a singer does not mean I am not a person and that I don't have valid opinions. I always trip out when I see, you know, people say to actors or singers, oh, they need to just shut up and just sing. They just need to shut up and act. Why does work at Walgreens make your opinion any better than mine because I sing?
Yeah. No.
And we're really in a business where majority of our board members, a majority of our, you know, upper echelons are conservative. And I learned that early on. I had somebody come up to me right after I crossed Delta, and I had on a elephant necklace, and this big guy comes and he's like, oh my God, so you're a Republican? And I was like, no. And so I said, why would you say that? He said, well, you have that elephant on. And at that point I was kind of new into politics and I had no idea about the whole elephant/donkey stuff. I said, no, this is for my sorority. And he's like, oh, and again, he turned away and walked away. I was like, you don't even have the balls to have a conversation with me. How can anybody vote for somebody or be that type of person where you can't have a logical conversation without turning tail and running when somebody doesn't agree with you? Because one, you're not willing to hear. So therefore, I will keep saying stuff on my social media just in case it may seep in every now and then. You know, there are points of view other than yours.
So Nicole said something interesting about saying things that make people uncomfortable. And I think that's necessary because you hear things it's called growing pains. You have to be uncomfortable and have to go through certain things in order to grow as a person. And if you're unwilling to sit through those uncomfortable situations, like she said, not even be able to have a conversation, you're telling me as a person, you're not even willing to grow. So, you know, I know not to waste my time with you. But I think it's necessary that we keep having these conversations and putting people in positions that are uncomfortable, because they're so used to, especially where I'm from, they're not used to black folks talking to them the way I talk to them.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, when
And,
I don't do the whole neck shaking and all that type of stuff. I speak very articulately and nice to them.
Clearly.
And it's always a shock to their system. They're all like, it takes them off guard because they expect black people to be,
Mhm.
all of that. And when you're not, that's when you can get through because they're just like, wait a second, I'm discombobulated. I don't know. You're not a stereotype. Oh my God.
Right.
And it makes it worse because in the area I live is in southeastern Missouri. I live probably 5 minutes from the Arkansas border. The KKK is still active in this area.
Mercy.
I know family. I know the family of the Grand Wizard of the KKK in this region. They are still very active. When people were talking about the debates over the Confederate flag, I didn't let that flag bother me. I don't care for it. But for me, that flag was a symbol to let me know places where I was not welcome.
Mhm.
Who I should and should not spend my money with, which businesses I should not be supporting in my community. And so be it. We have a boycott right now of a restaurant in my town who decided they wanted to, they told a couple of white ladies in town that they weren't welcome in their restaurant because they saw them out protesting with the Black Lives Matters people at our courthouse. So nobody's eating at his restaurant now. Because we put the word out and said
the MAGA hats, the Make America Great hats, those are the new Confederate flags.
Yeah.
Every time I see somebody with it on, I'm just like, ooh, you're a racist. And and they may or may not be, but I think they are. But that's
if they aren't, their friends are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For me, it's like if you tolerate it, then you're complicit.
Right.
If you don't nip it in the bud, you're complicit. And then I have no tolerance or time or respect for you. We're done. We're done. And it's so interesting. There's a particular opera company that in the last, I would say 6 months or so, there have been 4 members of the company, not in administration, but involved artistically, that are staunch supporters of 45. And they post the most horrible things. And I sat with it and it was like, all of the times that I've been here and you have smiled in my face and you have, say you've treated me with respect, but you're fine with Black people being slaughtered in the middle of the street unarmed right in front of your face as we're paralyzed during a global pandemic. And I don't ever see you post anything in support of that, but you post other things. And so, like I've always gotten in trouble for ever since I was a child, I open my mouth. Can you explain this? Or you're really exposing who you really are. And so who were you showing me when I was singing there and you were smiling in my face? Have you during this time had to disassociate from people who you thought were friends of yours?
Not professionally, but yeah, other people, yes.
Yeah, this Facebook and all of the social medias allows people to be your friends suddenly because they can find your name and things like that. But people who I know and who know me, I've not had to. And it's really interesting that you tell that story, Kenneth, because the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are parties. And there are people who represent the ideals of that party. I would like to understand who genuinely in the Republican Party feels that 45 represents the ideals fully of the Republican Party. And those are the folks who I say, I check you at the door as being racist, because 45 is not Republican, right? Like he is,
because he talked crap about them before he was elected, remember?
Right. He is a bobblehead within that particular genre that fit him at the moment. And people who indicate that they are his, staunch supporters and believe everything he says are exactly those MAGA hat wearing racists. And to me, I know folks who are Republican who seemingly have had to vote for this individual because he was the only candidate that they allowed through. But I'm like, that if you are tied to that as an ideal, then I question your spine in a sense of being able to formulate your own ideals and beliefs outside of what someone is telling you, A, and B, that has shown to me who genuinely smiles in my face, welcomes me into, their arms and their home, but then undoubtedly supports this administration, who has shat on Black people, Latino, Asian, gay, straight, poor, African, who has shat on everyone who was not them. And you still have the audacity, should I say, to argue with me, oh no, I'm not a racist just because I'm a Republican, or not even that, I'm not a racist because I vote for Trump. Really?
Well, and
as an artist, I question also, that stance when it comes to our art form, not because it is this, liberal kind of flower child, situation. I look at it from the other side as an administrator where I sit, and I say, every time this comes up for debate, and you look at institutions like the NEA, our public school systems, and you look at where the money comes from, even at your state and local level, that money comes from the federal level. And you wonder why we don't have any arts programs in schools, music education, art education, humanities, why kids don't know how to write cursive these days, why, they don't know how to write the cursive. They don't have any type of mental stimulation in their schooling. And you yourself might be an artist who is rallying behind this administration, who is sucking the resources out of the very art form it is that you create. This is your livelihood. And you're okay with that. And not only for yourself, and then you're going to be shocked when the NEA has more than half of their funding cut. You're going to be shocked when there are no arts education programs in your local schools. You're going to be shocked about that. Your local government is only doing what the federal government told them to do with the money. So don't be shocked by it because you predicated it.
And I do want to say that there is a difference between Trumpism and Republicanism.
Yes.
Though, because I don't want that to get misconstrued. Because I have a lot of Republican friends who are not Trumpers. They're not voting for Trump. They're not going. They're even voting for Biden, or they vote for somebody else. And because that has turned them off, because it is not true Republican principles. I mean, we can talk about Republican principles on its own.
A demagogue.
That's a whole nother conversation. But what we're dealing with now is, it's a lot of people, even in the Republican Party, that just can't take what he's doing. But because they want Roe v. Wade overturned, or because they want, they don't want to pay extra for their health care so they can get their kitchen redone. No, facts.
No, that is
all the time. Like, I'm getting my kitchen redone this year. What am I don't want to pay extra money for insurance. Yeah, that's the conversation I get. So, but yeah, so I think there's a definite difference, but I think you're absolutely right. But the problem is that with all of this that's going on is that until something actually affects certain people, they have no care about it whatsoever. That's why they don't care about Black Lives Matter. Because if you ain't Black, it don't matter to you.
Why they don't care about COVID?
It doesn't matter if they cut funding for the National Endowment of the Arts, because you know what? I've already had my job. I've had my career, or I'm in charge of the company, so I'm already getting a check. They don't care, because people only deal with, just like people with COVID. They act, like COVID doesn't exist until somebody in their family gets it, and then they're concerned, and then they wear a mask. Like now, all of a sudden, you see at the MAGA rallies, everybody's wearing a little mask in the front. I was like, where were those masks like right before Trump got COVID? Nobody was wearing those little cute little MAGA masks, but they're wearing them now. This, it's all about what they're getting and what happens to them. If it doesn't happen to them, it doesn't matter. They don't care.
Well, the ones that are wearing them are only wearing them for the cameras at the rally.
Oh, of course. But again, like I said, they wasn't there before he had COVID, so it's all for show.
Right. And what gets me is that he has spent so much time denigrating this virus and trying to delegitimize it, and delegitimize the people who are working so hard to find a solution, the medical professionals, etc. And what gets me is, what did he do? The minute he supposedly contracts it, who does he run to? The very people he's been denigrating the entire time.
Yes.
He hopped on his helicopter and flies 15 minutes to a hospital where he has a team of doctors on his beck and call around the clock, giving him
best doctors on the planet.
Best doctors on the planet, giving him treatments and therapeutics that are not accessible to the average American.
Yeah.
And then has the nerve to claim that we have a cure. This is basically a cure-all. I'm immune. I mean, this man is, it's not, this isn't about Democratic or Republican. He's been denigrating the entire time.
Yes.
On his helicopter. I'm getting the echo from somewhere.
It's gone.
Okay, but it's about, this is a moral thing for me. I have an issue with people who are able to try to explain their support for him using morality issues, whether it's religion, or he's a Christian man. There is nothing about this man that is Christian.
What Bible are you using? What Bible are you using?
Nothing about this man says Christian. He is about Trump.
You wouldn't know what was inside of the Bible if you opened it and read it to him.
The man started out with his first name reference to the Bible. He said 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles.
What about
Turn with me in your Bibles to 2 Chronicles.
What?
Mercy God.
I remember that. And I'll tell you, listen, I've been an operative in some right-wing circles in my youth, particularly, and recently, not the Book of Satan, exactly. Recently, I did a fundraiser type thing, and not really a fundraiser. It was something for the new Prime Minister of Japan, or Ambassador of Japan to the United States a year or so ago, and they paid me a crap ton of money to come sing 3 songs and a Japanese song. And they literally taught me that day how to say the Japanese words. And I got a crap ton of money. But the next morning I had a meeting, a brunch date with some very evil Republican man who I won't say who it was, and his wife. And they basically said, well, of course nobody likes him. Nobody knows who, nobody cares. You know what we care about? The fact that we have 100 and some odd new federal judges. That's what we care about. We care about the fact that, so if he does lose in 4 years, the pool that people have to pull from for judges are going to be, limited. They're going to all be pretty much these, people, or they're going to pick people with no experience whatsoever, no federal experience on the bench whatsoever. And so all of that too was setting up this moment right now. This moment is setting up the fact that all these 100 plus some judges are there in all these judgeships in every district, every small little district, federal district court, have all Republican appointed, and sometimes Trump appointed.
Right.
Yeah.
On every single court. So when these challenges are happening, luckily we've been seeing that they've been coming back, with some sense. But he was preparing for this moment so he can say, "Oh well, I put you in. You're my people. You should, change that for me. You should vote for my team and for us and what we think." This is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. But I know these people do not like him. They don't like him at all. They can't stand him. But he's dumb enough, and he's saying this. Excuse me, but he is, and he's saying all the shit they wish they could say.
Yeah.
He's saying all the shit they wish they could say. So he could say it, and they can look concerned on CNN or Fox and admonish him. So, oh well, I wouldn't have said it that way. No, of course not. But you like that he said it.
Yeah.
Right. You encouraged him on that phone call earlier to say it, to be the bad guy.
And the thing is that now they're on this trip about, oh, don't vote for Biden because they're going to pack the courts. This is what they've been doing for the last 4 years. Court is packing the federal bench with judges. They stole a seat on the Supreme Court from Obama. And now they push through instead of putting together another aid package to help the millions of Americans who are in dire need of financial support right now.
Yeah.
They put a person on the Supreme Court in less than 30 days, and then had the nerve to adjourn the Senate. So he said, "Oh, we're still not going to put together a package for you." So they did all this to the judge. The federal bench was their target from the beginning. And so you have, and now they're saying, "Oh, the Democrats going to try to pack the Supreme Court." But the thing is, there's precedence for changing the configuration of Supreme Court. In the first 80 years of its existence, the court changed 7 times. And it hasn't changed in 130 years, the number of justices on the court. But I personally would like to see them expand the court. That's my personal opinion.
But I'll say there's nowhere in the Constitution that says there only has to be 9.
Right.
No,
it just has to be an odd number.
And let's also keep in mind that you only mentioned the Merrick Garland seat that was stolen. All of these federal judgeships that have been appointed over the last 3 years and 9 months were all Obama open spaces that they would not allow him to fill.
Right.
Because as the very evil man said to me, "Oh, well, I make the schedule." He said to me,
and can you just say the reason why all of these federal judges and why people want these federal judges on there is because they are planning on putting more and more Black men in prison, because that is a billion-dollar business.
It's their cash cow.
Free labor is a cash cow, and all these Black men sitting up there talking about, "Well, I can't vote for Biden, the crime bill, or I can't vote for Biden because of this and that." I was like, yeah, okay, they coming for you though. You don't see them coming for you because you're not paying attention to the judgeships that are going in. But there has to be a reason why they want all of a sudden this very conservative, federal judgeship going across the nation. They plan on taking Black men, and if they ain't shooting them,
right,
in the prison system to get them to work. That is a money cash cow, and it is a billion-dollar business. They just don't recognize.
If you look at the people they're appointing, these are people that could potentially be sitting on the federal bench for the next 30, 40 years.
Right.
And 30
the rest of our lives.
30-year-old people he was putting on.
And
for a while.
To everyone's point, in this recent part of the conversation, Obama's first 4 years were almost like the golden Enlightenment years. He had a Democratic House and Senate. Sure. Then when 2 years, then when he lost that control, when the Democrats lost that control, is when all of these appointments, all of these positions lied open.
And can we talk about why we lost the control? Because folks didn't vote in that 2-year election.
In the midterm. That is
in those midterms.
You cannot just show up to the presidential election. You have to show up to all of the ones, because it is, like Russell said, it is your state elections, it is your city and local elections, it is those midterm elections that then have the trampoline effect on what is happening in the presidential election or the year of their 4 years that allow them to get any type of work done. And it's like we sit on the opportunity to vote at every turn, and it feels like you're voting all the time for something. But you know what? Figure out what the something is, and then you will know the importance of voting every time. And so those judgeships have they laid open for years and years and years and years and years. And I will say this interesting tidbit here that I found out when we talk about appointments and boards and, you know, on the federal level and everything, I want to bring it a little bit closer to home for us as artists. The Kennedy Center, their board is appointed by y'all's president.
Yep.
The Kennedy Center's board of trustees is appointed by a president, and it has no term limits. So when you don't think elections matter when it comes down to your art and creating thereof it, you know, it does. It does, you know, not everybody's board is appointed by a president, but I just wanted to put that in perspective when we're talking about positions lying open and, you know, judgeships and all of these holes and vacancies that needed to be filled and the strategery that was some of these individuals filling them when they did. Remember, a board, the Kennedy Center, that is Washington National, it is the Kennedy Center. Their board of directors is appointed by the president. It is a presidential appointed appointment, and it has no term limits. Take that to bed, pray on it.
Wow.
Catch it.
We're about to lose Limmie. He's got to go teach a West Coast time masterclass, but the rest of y'all three gonna stay. Brother, did you want to leave us with something before you go?
Well, I was going to say, and then Patrice posted it in the, you know, there is no such thing as an unimportant election. All elections are important.
Yeah.
And I'll use my local elections as an example. When I was a teenager, every position in my courthouse was filled by a Democrat. Right now, every position in that courthouse is filled by a Republican, with the exception of one. And we've even had Democrats switch parties just to get reelected, because, you know, we have to not only vote, we have to get involved, we have to hold our state parties accountable, because in so many areas, especially mine, which is a rural community, the state parties have basically raised the white flag of surrender. They've given up on rural communities and have made it to the point to where even diehard Democrats are unable to compete, because not only is the state party not putting in the resources, the top of the ballot candidates aren't putting in the necessary resources to help those people who are farther down the ballot as well. So we have to, you know, everything boils down to the local when you're voting. Whether it's president, whether it's your governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, it's all going to go coming downhill. So, I mean, I just want to encourage people to get involved in your communities, stay involved. If an election doesn't go your way, don't let that deter you. Take a couple days and lick your wounds, but then get back up and get back in the fight. So, I mean, it's too important not to get involved. Too important not to get involved. Too much has been sacrificed. Too much has been given to just sit on the sidelines and not do anything. So it's easy. All you got to do is get up and do something.
I know that's right. Well, go teach the young folks how to do it, brother.
Thanks for being right.
It was so good to see you guys, Russ.
You too.
So I hate to leave because I'm loving this discussion. I will see you all later.
Holla at you.
Bye.
Bye.
So yeah, well, let me ask you all, do you remember the first time you voted, and do you remember who it was for?
Bill Clinton as president.
Me too.
That was my first one as well, but I didn't. I voted for Ross Perot in the. I voted for Ross Perot. He was just funny. He was just funny, but I knew I couldn't vote for Bush. But he was just funny. Yeah, that was my first one.
Mine was Clinton too.
Yeah. Love. So now I want to ask y'all a couple of at the end of my shows, I ask my guests the inside the actor studio questions, but I've changed them to political questions. And these are sort of quick fire questions. Some of them are funny, some of them are not. But just answer honestly. If no need to put too much thought into it. The first answer that comes to your mind is usually the best. All right. Your favorite and least favorite president? Afton.
Barack Obama, the first Bush.
Oh, okay. Nicole?
Are we including Trump?
If that's your answer.
Okay. Barack Obama and Donald J. Trump.
I don't associate him with the presidency, but I'd like to switch my answers.
I don't have a favorite, but my least favorite is definitely Donald Trump.
Gotcha. And mine was a tie between 45 and Nixon, but yeah. I don't often acknowledge 45 as having that position. I rarely even refer to him by name, just by that number, which I hope we can erase. Second question. Who was your favorite and least favorite first lady? Nicole?
Oh, come on, Michelle Obama. All day, every day. And really, sadly, Nancy Reagan.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Russ?
Nancy can't be my least favorite, but Michelle Obama was definitely my favorite first lady. She was definitely my favorite first. Listen, to just see a Black woman with so much poise and power and access and all of those things, and without scandal,
8 years
without scandal, remember what that was like when people were without scandal.
8 years, no scandal, and
the most scandalous thing was the color of a suit and bare arms. Do you remember that?
Yes.
She decided to wear a tank top, and people just had a fit. Really, they just had a fit. But she's my favorite. At least favorite. Listen, I would say Melania, but what did you like? Is she really listen? Be best.
Be best. Be best.
If we've learned nothing else,
right?
Be best. Okay, next question. Who is the vice president that you think has made the most impact, whether he became president or not?
Al Gore.
I was going to say, oddly enough, Al Gore.
Yeah, I didn't like him as much when he was running. I voted for him because he was the Democrat, and I just did not like Bush. But as a vice president, once he left office, it was like he came into his own. And he took off after that.
Definitely.
I think he became more. He's like a Van Gogh or something. He became more famous, if you will, after his after his vice presidency and his run for president. And there are so many things that we attribute and should attribute now to his post-vice president, post-president run that we are,
climate change.
Yes, taking advantage of, if you will. Now, I felt like he became alive in some kind of way. And I'm glad that he didn't win the presidency. I say that in this way because I don't think he would have accomplished nearly everything that he has without that.
Agree.
Because don't forget, he was in the shadow of this very dynamic person. Bill Clinton was very dynamic. That would have been tough for him. I agree with you, Afton. That would have been tough for him. And listen, and he to me is like Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter did so much more after his presidency than he did during his presidency.
And he's still out there building houses.
Still out there building houses.
Sir, sit down.
Habitat for Humanity is still think about how many Black families got homes because of Habitat for Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
How many Black families became homeowners? You know that like such
Yet
a
and
amazing.
still.
Yes,
Sit down, President Carter. We love you. You've done enough.
enough.
That's the message right there.
If you were to change the national anthem, what song would you change it to?
I would change it to America the Beautiful.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like America the Beautiful.
It's a beautiful song.
It is, yes.
And are you a current national anthem kneeler, or do you still sing it with pride?
To be honest, I've never sung it. Never. I would stand up and do this, but I've never actually sung the words. And I think I had to when I was a young artist at Seattle Opera. We went to a baseball game and we all had to sort of sing it. And I was just, but I have never sung it. Never.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
I sang it like when I was in college, and there was no kneeling or not kneeling, and I don't sing currently, so no, I haven't sung it since. But I will invite everyone to go out there and dig up all of the verses of that said national anthem.
That part.
And learn yourself a lesson.
And I think I learned about that very early, Afton. I think that's why I did. That's a moral reason for me or any other, but I learned about that very early, about all of the verses and all of the things and who it was written by and why it was written, all of those things. And I just nope, not for me.
Well, for me, I am the queen of the anthem. Every time they do something in Heaston, I always get the call to do it. and honestly, I was ignorant of the other verses. But even with the knowledge of the other verses, that's not the verse I sing. And for me, I personally take great pride every time I sing it, because when you're singing those words of talking about that flag still being there and the bombs bursting in air, there were Black soldiers out there seeing that. It is not only for them. It's not only Black people bled and died for this country and bled for that song. So every time I sing it, I'm singing it for my ancestors. I ain't singing no other verses. I'm singing that verse. And that gives me, when I sing it, I just feel it. Because I'm like, I know, because people can sit there and they can claim it. And I have no disrespect for anybody who kneels. If you kneel, I got power for you. I love it. But me, I love to sing that song because, like I said, it represents all of us. And I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to take it. You can't take that from me because my people died too. So
Come on now.
Stan over here talking about, yeah.
Yeah, Stan. Renaissance man.
Right. I know. The only president, have you ever met a living a president?
Yes.
Who?
No.
Clinton.
Me too.
Yeah.
George W. Bush waved at me from the.
Hey, Alf.
He wasn't president yet. I went on a field trip to the state capitol in Austin, and he was a senator or whatever, maybe. So, or in the House, and he was on the floor of the House chamber, and we were sitting up top, and here go my old crazy, ignorant ass. And I got a little wave back, but that's the closest I got.
No, I met Debian when he was running for president, and he made a comment at a speech at a Young Republicans event, and he said something like, "Some people say I'm not very intelligent, but I don't think you need intelligence to be president."
Right.
And I immediately was like, and they were all screaming, clapping. And I was like, no, that's not something to celebrate. And he was like, I'm George W. Bush, the common sense candidate for president. I was like, no, sorry, no.
Abort mission, cut.
Exactly. It all changed for me at that point. But yeah, that was the only one I met.
Yeah,
quick, really funny story about the anthem. When I met President Clinton, he was running for president, and this guy who liked me in college had asked me to sing the anthem. And back in the 90s, you know, I was monochromatic. You know, I had on a red dress with red stockings and red shoes, all that type of stuff. Huge, you know, airplane hanger. And I sang, and I had on all this red. So I sang the anthem, and then I put my coat on because it was freezing, and I was leaving, and I made my way through the crowd, and I saw one of my sorority sisters all the way in the back. I mean, it was thousands of people there. And she said, Nicole, what are you doing here? I said, I just sang the national anthem for future president, for Governor Clinton. And so she said, that was you? I thought they said that was Whitney Houston's sister. And I was like, I did all this and didn't even get the fame of singing Nicole Heaston, because they thought it was Whitney Houston's sister.
And she don't even have a sister.
I literally opened my back, and then when she saw the red, she's like, "Oh, it was you." I was like,
That's hilarious. You know, the only one I ever met was
sister.
Yeah, she didn't even have a sister.
But they just assumed that because they heard Nicole Heaston, they thought Houston. And I guess the way I sang it, because you know Whitney was real popular for singing it at the Super Bowl.
She's the only person I ever want to hear sing it. Like, please don't let anybody else at the Super Bowl do that song, because it's just always terrible.
Press play.
Just press play. Give money to her foundation and get the rights to just let her do it. Now, when I met Clinton, I sang Lift Every Voice and Sing. It was for the opening ceremony of his offices in Harlem. And you know how they say him and Kennedy and all these guys, they have this thing, this electricity that makes you. And I was like, Chaba, he's just a man. He's just a man. So I get up to the podium, very Marian Anderson like, and and turn around after I was done. And he was standing and he extended his hand. And he said, young man, that was absolutely wonderful. And I swear I grew pigtails like immediately.
Yeah,
I was like, this is what they're talking about. Oh my God, I love this man. Like, it was instantaneous.
Yeah, he has it.
He has it. He has it. Okay, on your money, what person would you replace and who would you replace it with, excluding the upcoming Harriet Tubman $20 bill?
Oh, okay.
Oh. I don't. That's a tough one. Listen, other than the upcoming Harriet Tubman, listen. I think Barry Obama should be on some money. I think Marian Anderson should be on some money.
I think Martin Luther King should be on some money too.
I think Martin Luther King should be on some money.
Yes.
And much as it would piss people off, I think some Malcolm X should be on some money.
Come on.
Yeah, listen, give him something.
Give him a silver dollar or something.
Right.
Yeah, one of them big ones, yeah.
Right.
The ones you can't do nothing with, but I still will take them.
Exactly. $2 bill.
Look, why does Susan B. Anthony still get those big old coins? Remember, you have to use those to get in stuff. You know, I'll never forget. I'll forget some public transport used to use those big old Susan B. Anthony's. You had to have those to get on public transport at one point. But yeah, no. We can give that Susan B. Anthony to give that one to Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Barack Obama and Martin Luther King, I think they should be on something.
Okay, so of the 5 people from this administration, who do you despise most? Betsy DeVos, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Ben Carson, or Kellyanne Conway?
Mitch
McConnell.
Mitch.
Evil incarnate.
I actually respect Kellyanne Conway. I actually respect her. I don't like what she does, but she does her job better than anybody. She can turn somebody inside out, and I don't even think she believes what she's talking about.
Her daughter don't respect her. I live for her daughter.
Respect for her.
I don't. I do. I think that she does a great job because she's horrible. She's horrible, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But the stuff she does, I don't think she believes it. I don't think she believes it and still spills it out.
Right.
I don't think that actually, no, I do believe Mitch McConnell believes everything that he says, but he is truly, truly evil. It is toxic. It is dangerous. He does it with a straight face. You know, them people who lie to you with a straight face are like the worst type of, folks. But he is truly and has been the antithesis of just evil. And I fear, but not really, but for their, that karma, because I don't want to be standing anywhere in the vicinity of him, Lindsey Graham, and others when that great judgment day comes, because I don't want to feel the reverberation.
No.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to feel it.
Well, Russell's saying prayers with his son before he goes to bed, but he'll be back. But since now I have the ladies, I wanted to ask you a question. As women, as Democratic women, why do you feel or sense that Black women have turned out for the Democratic Party with the most loyalty of any demographic that there is? And why do you, and it's understandable why they're going to do it now, because Mamala is going to be, and I'm claiming it, the next vice president. But why do you think Black women have consistently shown up for the Democratic Party?
I think they've had to. I think they've had to. Black women have always had to clean up the mess of everybody else. Literally. Let's be honest. Literally. And I think they had to because, whereas, some folks can sit around and afford to, well, I don't think they can, but they've taken a position as if they can sit around and afford to complain about everything and say why they're not going to support something and why they're not going to vote for somebody, and they haven't voted anyway ever. Black women usually step up to fix that mess, and I think that has always been the case. They've always been the highest demographic voter for the Democratic Party. And
yes, and I think that it is something that is intrinsically woven into us, our DNA of who we are. And this goes back to, wet nurses. This goes back to big mamas in the masses house, that it has just been woven into the DNA of Black women. We are sustainers. That is it. It's like, I feel like it is just a part of who we are as sustainers and carriers of things and carriers of people. And this, is us carrying this institution across the finish line in many instances. And also, I think that it is because we have to show up for, unfortunately, so many of our Black men who have lost or don't have the capability or the rights to vote. Yeah.
I think it's also because a lot of the platforms that the Republican Party has do not benefit Black women or the Black family. And I think the biggest advocate for Black women is the Black church. The Black church is, has always been very progressive in the sense of that, even though, you think of the religious right and how, because I totally was shocked, like in the 90s, when all of a sudden this religious right term came up, where I was like, wait a second, I go to church. I was raised in the church. I went 3 days a week when I was a kid. I was like, why? I'm religious. Why am I'm not a Republican, but they made it seem like anybody who wasn't a Republican wasn't a Christian. But it was the opposite in the Black church. With the Black church, you were Christian and you did believe in God, but you also believed in helping and being there for your fellow man and helping each other. And so therefore, and actually adopting it and using it properly and not just, making it just for a certain group of people. So therefore, in the Black church, you have the pastors and, you have people, they always come to the church. And who's in church most? Black women.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But unfortunately, I know quite a bit of Black Christians that support even 45. And I find that to be really disheartening because as Kenny said earlier, there's nothing Christian about this man.
No.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. What is your position on reparations?
Show me my money.
Yeah.
I hate to compare it to other other folks in other places and other things. However, yes, I'll just say, show me my money. Give me mine. I'm not gonna say what was on my mind. I won't say that because I would be taken the wrong way. But I will say that others have benefited from their strife, no matter how horrendous it was. Why haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't we? You don't even got to give me 40 acres. Give me 2 acres in Georgia somewhere.
Yeah.
Or 2 acres in Florida. You know what that would do to somebody with the wherewithal? You know what I mean?
To make it work.
Land. Don't give me no federal unbuildable land, no land that I can't even walk on. Don't give me that, because you know that's what they're going to do.
Right, some swamp.
If they do anything, it's going to be like, you get that corner of the Grand Canyon, like right there. It's yours. We might send somebody to engrave your name on it.
I think reparations is something that is well overdue. And you can sit up there and say, you know, look at all of us on here. We have a general director, we have successful opera, a man who has run an opera company, 2 successful singers. Yes, you know, I have enough, but you know what? My family was earned more. And the thing is what I'm having is so much more than what my parents have, and so much more than what my grandmother had, and so much more than my great grandparents had, because they had nothing and they were owed everything. And for us to be able to even start with our generational wealth, the way we are so many generations behind other societies. And we need to get that so that we can be on even keel. Because then you can preach to me. I want you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Because you know what? Y'all didn't give us no doggone bootstraps. Y'all just gave us some raggedy old boots with holes in them.
I was going to say, they didn't give you no boots. They gave you some brown paper bags and told you to use them.
There you go.
That's it. The great Jesse Norman said, you know, you can't tell people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps because they're not wearing boots.
Yep.
They got no shoes.
You've got to make it possible for them to pull on something.
Right.
It's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard her say. It's, you know, and that's the other thing about, you know, being a Black artist in this industry. Like, we've had a great example of artists in the past being political, like Paul Robeson, my God, you know, and Marian Anderson, just by her standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in the way that she did, that was political. Todd Duncan. You know, I was reading a lot about him when I was doing Lost in the Stars, and found that when he was doing it, there was a theater in Virginia that was still segregated. And he was in the theater and he looked way up in the balcony. He said, "Who sits up there?" And they told him, he said, "That's where the Black people sit." He said, "Take me up there." And they took him, went out in the back and down this alleyway and up these steep spiral stairs. And he said, "If my people can't sit anywhere they want to, there's no show." And they said, "Well, we have a contract." And he said, "Do what you have to do, but I'm not singing unless my people can sit anywhere they want to sit." And they were able to do that. And so we come from a long line of folks in the arts who stood up for what was right and to speak their mind and sing their song in their way. So I take great pride in that. I called my managers once and I said, "I hope what I said didn't get me in trouble." And they were like, "Listen, we support you." You know, and that meant the world to me, because it's hard for me to hush when I see injustice and foolishness. So now there's another question that I wanted to ask. Term limits.
Yes. Everywhere.
All places.
I don't understand why we don't have it for other things.
Because listen, we're stuck with Amy forever.
Ever.
And ever.
Forever. I forget, someone said something along the lines of, we're asking, you know, we are relying on people on wealthy people to make decisions for, you know, poor people, and they've not ever, you know, had that type of, you know, life, or it was something to that effect. But I don't understand the no term limits in the Supreme Court, because I'm like, the world is ever evolving. The world is ever evolving, and issues are different today than they will be in 20 years. And we will not have lived the life of a 20-year-old then today. You know what I'm saying? And so how can we remain current in the way that we govern if we are governing with, outdated 20-year-old, governors, not necessarily like governors of states, but those upholding the government?
Right.
It's foolish. I mean, God rest her soul, Miss Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean, she should have retired during the Obama administration so that he could have appointed someone. Bless. God bless you.
Right after the day after inauguration day, she should have handed in her letter of resignation, her retirement letter. The day
so
after.
that we, yes, agreed.
Hindsight's 2020. She had no idea what the hell was coming down the pike.
She had zero idea, and God bless. Like we all wanted her to hold on, and she was oh so close.
Yeah.
But here we are now with a Clarence Thomas. Still.
He's now the senior member of the court. The most senior member of the court is Clarence Thomas right now.
And he was the one who swore in Amy, didn't he?
Yes.
Mercy.
I mean, what heathenism is that?
Sir. So Afton, you touched on something. No, and I want to put it to the Constitution, because I believe it should become a living document, because when it was written, it wasn't written with any of us in mind. Russell and I were 3/5 of a man, and y'all were next to nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
Gay people were nothing, weren't considered. Women in general, nobody was considered. Do we need to somehow make the Bill of Rights and the other aspects of the Constitution living documents so that they work for the living folks today?
I personally think it is a living document. That's why you have an amendment process. But what I believe we need, though, is a constitutional convention, which that's never going to happen again, because we need to rethink the entire system of government. I think that's what we need to do.
Electoral college, the whole thing.
The whole thing. I think that's what we need. We need a constitutional convention to rethink the entire system of government. Because it as much as it works, there's so many people it doesn't work for, and I think that's your point.
Right?
It's not because the document in and of itself isn't living and breathing, because it is, because there were processes put in place to make sure it did do that, but how one has to go about it is so complicated and convoluted, and because it depends on the whim of whoever is in political power at the time, that's the kind of stuff that just simply doesn't work. We shouldn't have to go 4 years of this.
Exactly.
Why should we ever have to do that?
Yeah. That's a really interesting question that you ask. When I was working at New York Theater Workshop, there was a show out called What the Constitution Means to Me. It was a really interesting show written by a white woman. So it was through the viewpoint of a singular white woman. But at the end, they asked everyone. And so the whole point of the show was she was talking about doing debates on the Constitution. That's how she made money to put herself through school. And at the end of the show, they asked the audience, should we keep the Constitution or eradicate it? And overwhelmingly, every time I went, everybody voted to keep it. And there is something I think that we all still hold on to that is foundational in that document, that is foundational in a way that if we eliminate it altogether, then what base do we have to start from? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it sparked a lot of interesting conversation, amongst white people in off-Broadway theater. But, when you ask this question here, I'm like, yes, there are so many issues with it because it is not working for everyone who is living and breathing now and who has lived and breathed over the past X number of years. And it needs a complete overhaul that will mirror the overhaul of our government. But if we eliminate it cut it off at the knees or below. What do we have to stand on, and then really to learn from, to not implement the same BS.
Yeah. Well, I have two more questions for y'all because I have kept y'all here for over 2 hours. I love it. But before we get to the last two questions, I wanted to take a moment and tell everybody next week's show on the 9th at 7 p.m. is going to be so delicious. I have three gorgeous divas with me that I am so excited to be with. Janai Brugger, Jacqueline Eccles, and Talise Trevine are all going to be here next week. I cannot wait. Just gold throats all the day long. And please pencil in for me. Actually, put it in ink because it's happening. It's a special date and time. Saturday, November the 14th at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
I'm not going to tell you who's going to be here, but they are going to be here, and you don't want to miss it. It's historical that these folks are going to be here, but it's a special time and place, and I had to get this time because it was the only time that these three powerhouses could be with me. So pencil in November the 14th, Saturday at 11 o'clock in the morning. Set your calendar, do it now. But next week on the 9th will be Talise, Janai, and Jacqueline. And then on November the 16th, Monday at 7 p.m., Denise Graves will be here with me. I'm so excited to have her. And then the rest of the month, y'all just not ready for it. Y'all just not ready for it. He's doing it. He's doing it.
Come on and serve us on out of 2020 with it.
Yes.
Serving it up. All right. So my last two questions. Who would you put in Biden's cabinet? The three people that you want to see, let's just take three, and place them in the cabinet in their position.
Oh Lord, I would start with Klobuchar somewhere in there. I kind of liked her. I kind of liked her for maybe Attorney General or something. Klobuchar. I like Andrew Yang. I think he can do anything. I think he's a smart guy. I think he can do anything.
Economic policy.
Yeah. I don't know who else.
I want Stacey Adams in there, but I don't know where I want her.
Abrams, you mean?
Stacey Abrams, yes.
Okay.
But I don't know where I want her. I also want Elizabeth Warren in there.
Yes, definitely.
Treasury, maybe.
Or maybe I swap her out with Secretary of State.
She doesn't have a lot of foreign policy.
I was going to out that one. That's hard. I really would have to think about that one.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm only thinking about the people who were running. And I think that
there were 50 of them.
Yeah, I know, but there's so many. But listen, of those 15, really, like, come on, like, y'all didn't want half of them there to begin with because y'all knew Biden. Y'all was choosing Biden already from day one. But I don't know. That's a toughie. But I know there are some people who have strengths, like Elizabeth Warren, like Amy Klobuchar, like Andrew Yang. I think didn't somebody recently say they wanted to be, in charge of HUD or something like that that was running?
I would put maybe Andrew Yang in charge because he brings to me like an economic business, which he is, like powerhouse. Come on, Prince. Come on, Prince. Because he is this economic business man. And I mean, I don't know, unfortunately, how HUD is even surviving now with the neuroscience.
Bernie was the one that supposedly asked for labor or HUD or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That was a rumor, allegedly.
Okay.
I just hope that the Biden-Harris administration is able to come on with the pretense, is able to fill these positions in a timely manner and with whom they want to. Because, like with 45 and that administration, people were running in and out of there like diarrhea, and so it was like, you didn't know where you were at. So I hope that they
still aren't filled. There's some positions that still aren't filled.
Yeah.
Exactly. I hope that Biden Harris has the opportunity to fill their cabinet with the folks who they want to and should in a timely fashion, because the work that has to be done is immediate, and it just is. So I hope that they're able to do that. As much as I dislike Betsy DeVos, and I do, because she has completely almost ruined the education system.
I want to personally escort her out.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah.
Pack up your things, take your family's money,
and beat
take it with you, and beat it, as Michael Jackson would say. And we need a very strong person in education, in the education Department of Education, because with the COVID, our children are just going to continue to fall further and further behind, because they're in school, they're not in school, they're hybrid, they're in person, they have to not go, they're taking things online, going a half a day, and God knows how things are going to turn out. So our education system needs reinforcement, 1,000%, just complete reinforcement, in order to continue to sustain this country and the future of this country with these kids. I don't know who needs to be in Department of Education, but someone genius.
But that's another thing too. I see some of these names that people are bringing up, like Maxine Waters, love her to death, but I'm sorry. It's no. What about new blood? What about the young folk? What about them? Because they, as we all know, they have an energy right now that they're actually the ones. I think that with Black women, if things go the way we all want them to go tomorrow night, it's going to be the young folks that showed up, that pushed it over the edge and made it happen.
Yeah.
So they should have some say in how the government is being run, other than just their vote because you needed them.
Yeah. All right, last question. Before I ask it, I just want to thank y'all so much for spending now almost 2.5 hours with me in this very important conversation. I love y'all to death, and I'm hoping for the best for all of us. But thanks for coming on and sharing this time. All right, so who is completely and totally banished from ever coming to the picnic again? Is it Clarence Thomas, Ben Carson, Candace Owens, Kanye West, or Ice Cube? Who can never come to the picnic and get a plate, a piece of pound cake, a piece of chicken, a burger, a nothing, can't have Big Mama's punch, nothing? Who can never?
Chicago's own.
Say who?
Chicago's own, and we've disowned him there, Kanye West, because I'm sorry, Ben Carson was never
invited.
Never
right.
invited.
Exactly.
And what's his name?
Clarence Thomas was never invited.
Clarence Thomas was it. Candace Owens, she's bringing bad potato salad, so that's who she is.
Her pound cake didn't have a pound of nothing.
No, it's sour. But Kanye. Kanye can never come. Now, Ice Cube, really and honestly, the Ice Cube situation, Ice Cube really was trying to talk to Trump and to Biden to try and speak on Black issues for economics. I think his stuff kind of got misconstrued. He wasn't as bad as 50 Cent, just like, I'm team, Trump, like, I'm done with you and power. But when you got Kanye and his shenanigans, because one, he's crazy anyway, so you don't want him coming he can't come.
Yeah, I would have to go with Kanye as well, because at one point he would have been invited to the picnic. I would have he could have I would have even made him a plate and a plate to go, but not now.
Wrapped in tinfoil.
Yes.
Yes, I would have gave him my good Tupperware. I would have gave him my good Tupperware and knew he wasn't gonna bring it back at one point. That man as an artist, you know.
Yeah.
But no, he would not be invited.
Yeah.
Ever.
I think all of the people, all of those mentioned, with the exception of Kanye and Ice Cube, were never invited to the picnic. You know, Adele was invited to the picnic before Clarence Thomas was ever invited to the picnic, and I'm even having to rethink her invitation. But I would also echo Kanye, because the more that I read about Ice Cube and where he was coming from with the both of them, I was like, I think, like Nicole said, got mixed up in something that wasn't meant for him. Right. Somebody took what he was trying to do and made it into something that was not. But Kanye had been crazy a long time. Kanye had not been on those meds a long time. And Kanye got caught up in himself. As my grandmother would say, he started smelling himself a long time ago. And so therefore he's uninvited, like that Alanis Morissette would say. He was no longer invited to this party. Chicago has truly disowned him. Girl, they put something up on Magnificent Mile in front of the Gap for a hot second, some statement that he made, and they wrote over that and took it right down when the crazy really showed itself.
Chicago has no time for it now. None.
He doesn't get any of the good hot sauce.
Hey.
Or the mild.
Wait, they held on to R. Kelly longer than they R. Kelly would probably be invited before Kanye.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately.
You're right. Yeah.
He's got a piece of Harold's chicken waiting for him, R. Kelly.
Just tell your nieces and granddaughters to stay away from him.
No, you sat them in front of the church mothers. You just sat them right with the church mothers, right there.
With those white nurses' shoes and the white stockings, the monochromatics,
the knee highs.
Stick long enough to reach and bop somebody. Yes.
Where you going, Robert? Sit down. I'll get it for you.
I don't want him wandering all over my house.
Somebody come to Robert that piece of chicken, the overcooked one.
Right.
Oh my God. I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for being with me. And let's go to bed and pray for a wonderful outcome tomorrow.
Or amen to that.
At least by Friday.
At least by Friday.
Yeah.
But a clear indication.
Clear indication by Friday. I wish you all continued health and your independent successes that you've all been having for you and your families. Continued health for your family and safety and sanity in this crazy time. May we all just figure out how to come together if we don't necessarily have a path forward in the next couple of weeks. I love all y'all here in these 4 boxes, everybody on the books of faces. And I wish us all well.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I said it. Vote tomorrow if you've not already done so. Don't sit down. Don't sit back. And I have to say, I really enjoyed this, Kenny. This was a lot of fun. And I echo what Afton says. I love everybody in these boxes. Love me some Biden Harris. And I have to say, with the COVIDs and the quarantine, it's wonderful to actually be able, with these type of chats, to connect with other Black singers. And I think in some ways we become closer with the COVIDs now that we're apart. So it's really, really wonderful. So this was great, Kenny. I enjoyed this. And you all are fantastic people doing fantastic things. And I am so proud to be a part.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for the invitation. Y'all know I love all y'all. Every single one of you. And it's great to be in. Listen, I just want to be one of the number. I just want to be one in the number. Thanks for the invitation. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Come on, church.
Love you much. Don't sign off when we get off air. I just want to say bye to y'all in private. Thanks, everybody. See you next Monday with Talisa and Janai and Jackie. Ciao.
Vote.
Vote. People, vote.
Do it. Make a plan. Get it.
Yeah.